Hi guys, AnimeScale here. Today we're going to do another versus battle, this time between Naruto and Madara. This is going to be a fun one with lots of different forms and transformations to go over, so let's get started. Let's start off with Madara as a kid. We don't really know a lot about him, but we do know that he was already one of the stronger members of his clan, or before he even got a base Sharingan, and as a kid. This was also during the Warring Clan period, so you can bet he already has tons of battle experience. Madara was, in every sense of the word, one of the biggest geniuses ever. Compare that to Naruto at the start of the series, and well, he can summon a lot. Lots of shadow clones. And that's basically it. He barely has any combat experience and his taijutsu is questionable at best. Naruto didn't start off being very gifted, so he would have no chance against this version of Madara. This is all different if we talk about the Naruto that went berserk against Aku. Here, Naruto can use a decent bit of the Ninetales chakra, greatly enhancing his speed and strength. This boost was so huge that Naruto went from being basically useless to manhandling Aku. This is a massive amp, and I don't see even Kid Madara being able to really stop him. Naruto, of course, gains much more experience after his first mission, and we see this during the Chunin exams. Yes, I know his fight against Kiba was questionable, but he did beat him. Besides, it is clear to see that Naruto is both faster and stronger than he used to be. Is that enough to take down Madara without the Nine Tails? Not a chance. Now, Naruto did end up tapping into the Kyuubi's chakra during the exams, but I think it was pretty clear to see that he didn't use nearly as much of the Ninetales power as he did in his fight against Aku. I just don't see any way this version of Naruto can take down Madara when the gap between even the stronger version of Kyuubi chakra wasn't that huge. Of course, Naruto's best showing here was when he took on a partially transformed Gaara, using a combination attack with dozens and dozens of shadow clones. This Gaara was able to overwhelm Sasuke, who was using his curse mark at the time, so it's a pretty big feat. Really, it comes down to this. Was this Naruto stronger than the Naruto who went berserk against Aku? I don't think he's quite there yet, so I'll still give this fight to Madara with decent difficulty. Obviously, all that changes when you give Naruto access to Gamabunta, one of the strongest summons in the series. Gamabunta went toe-to-toe against the actual One-Tails, and even managed to momentarily pin down the Nine-Tails. Kid Madara is a genius, but he isn't anywhere near Tailed Beast level, so he gets squashed if Naruto decided to bring the Big Toad out. Naruto, of course, learns a lot during Part 1, and by the time he gets to the Valley of the End, he can finally use his signature move, the Rasengan. The Rasengan is no joke, and is one of the strongest and most versatile techniques in the series. So Naruto is now much stronger than he's ever been before. Meanwhile, Madara has unlocked the Sharingan, which is a massive amp. Honestly, I think Madara would stomp all over this Naruto, just like Sasuke had. I mean, Kid Madara is basically a much stronger, more experienced, and more talented version of Sasuke, and Sasuke alone was too much for this Naruto to handle. Now, the gap is closed somewhat if Naruto taps into the power of the Ninetales, like he did against Sasuke. This isn't a huge amount of the Ninetales chakra, but in their fight it was enough to overpower Sasuke, who was manhandling Naruto even with just 2 Tomo in his Sharingan. Still, I think the gap between the two is just too big to start with. Sasuke was able to keep up with this Naruto when he got his 3rd Tomo. Even with a weaker Sharingan, I genuinely think this Madara is stronger than Sasuke ever was, so this fight would still be a reasonably easy win. So then, why do I think Naruto with his one-tail cloak would beat this version of Madara? Base to base, this Madara is definitely stronger than Sasuke was. In fact, the gap between the two of them was so big that even with his first stage curse mark, this Madara was definitely stronger. Was he stronger than Sasuke after he got his 2nd stage curse mark though? I have a hard time believing that. Not only did this Sasuke have the massive stage 2 curse mark amp, he also had a stronger Sharingan. And even then, their fight wasn't exactly one-sided. I don't see this version of Madara pulling off a win here. Naruto, of course, got even stronger after the time skip. He got faster, stronger, and was much better at using his clones in combat. He didn't get nearly as big of a boost as Sasuke, but he was still way stronger than he was before. But that's the problem. He wasn't nearly as strong as Sasuke after the time skip. This version of Madara also has had years to grow stronger, and now has a fully matured Sharingan. Like we've said before, he's a more talented version of Sasuke, in a time period with way more conflict than Sasuke ever went through. Honestly, this probably isn't even a fair fight and Madara would easily take this. Of course, Naruto always has the ability to rely on the Kyuubi, giving him another amp. Honestly, the strength difference between the two is just too massive. Even if Naruto could use this amount of the Kyuubi chakra, I doubt he'd have done much against heavy Sasuke, so he'd do even less in a fight against this version of Madara. He might even end up using a one-tail cloak, the same way he did in the Valley of the End. That's a massive boost in power, but is it enough to take down this version of Madara? Again, it seems pretty unlikely. I know I'm repeating myself here, but would Naruto have taken down heavy Sasuke even with the one-tail cloak? I think it's pretty obvious that Sasuke was capable of dealing with Kage-level shinobi at that point, and this is only double for Madara, and I doubt Naruto is anywhere near that level just yet. Now, Four-Tail Cloak Naruto is a different story. This version of the Four Tails is so strong that it not only almost killed Jiraiya, it went toe-to-toe with Orochimaru, who is already stronger than all of the Kage at that point. Madara himself is way stronger than a normal Kage, but I do think Naruto is just too fast and too strong for this Madara to deal with. To be clear though, Madara would win. He just suppressed the Nine Tails the same way that Sasuke did, except even more easily. I'm just guessing Madara will have a little fun before realizing this fight is a little too much for him, and then he'll suppress the Nine Tails. Sage Mode Naruto is a massive, massive level up from anything we've ever seen from Naruto before this point. Not only can he use Sage Mode, one of the biggest strength amps in the series, he can also safely use the Rasen Shuriken, one of the most destructive jutsu in the series. I think it's safe to say that Sage Mode Naruto was at least as strong or stronger than Jiraiya, and Jiraiya went against several paths of pain at once. Madara is strong, but I don't see him taking down Sage Mode Naruto with just a base Sharingan. Especially considering Naruto took down someone who literally had the Rinnegan. Obviously, there are some asterisks to that fight, but there aren't nearly enough to give Madara the win in this particular fight. Getting an MS gives Madara a huge boost in power. This is Madara we're talking about, so I would be shocked if he didn't have an armored Susanoo either. With this and the base strength and speed amp, all of this isn't even considering whatever Madara's actual Mangekyou powers might be. Now, we kind of know what they are. You see, in one of the Storm games, we see Madara using his powers in a fight against Hashirama. Here it seems like his ability is to rewind time. Think of it as a weaker version of Izanagi. This would also make a lot more things make sense. Like how exactly did Madara survive Hashirama without using Izanagi, for instance? Still, even if we don't consider these, whatever his powers are won't be anything to take lightly. Factoring all that in, I don't think this Madara would struggle very much against Naruto. KCM1 is a ridiculous boost in power for Naruto. He was now so fast he managed to outspeed the Raikage, who at this point was the fastest ninja on the planet. This version of Naruto was so strong he was sending out his shadow clones to deal with reanimated Kage all over the place. It's safe to say he left the level of normal Kage behind a long time ago. Is that enough though to take down Madara with an EMS? Well, Madara now has access to his perfect Susanoo. You know, the Susanoo that casually moves its sword around and mountains just happen to fall over. The Susanoo all 5 Kage gave one look at and just knew they were all about to get one shot. Naruto might be close to this Madara in speed, but he has nothing on that level of raw destructive power, so he'd definitely lose. Still, while the version of 1 KCM cloak is strong, it isn't half as strong as the KCM cloak version 2. Here, with full access to the chakra of the Nine Tails and access to his Kurama avatar, he finally has moves and abilities on the level of Madara's perfect Susanoo. I think it's hard to say who would win in a fight here, but they're both probably somewhat equal in terms of raw power. I would give Madara an edge here simply because he's both a lot smarter and a lot more experienced. Naruto isn't as dumb as he used to be, and he does have experience, but Madara has been in wars longer than Naruto has been alive, so I think he'd take this fight with some difficulty. Of course, stacking Sage Mode on top of KCM2 only gives Naruto one more massive amp. Now, he's so fast and his sensory abilities are so high that he can react to Juubidara, a 6-pass character. This is a massive boost in strength, and this would definitely be enough for Naruto to finally overpower Madara. Now, the gap isn't quite as ridiculous as you'd think. This is still Madara after all, and it wasn't like Naruto was putting up much of a fight against Juubidara anyway. Still, Naruto would take this fight in the end. Madara came very prepared in his final fight against Hashirama. In fact, he brought the actual Nine Tails with him and had him fighting alongside him. That is crazy enough, but Madara cloaked the Nine Tails with his perfect Susanoo, creating the Majestic attire Susanoo, something way above anything he'd used before. Now, things are a little weird here. This Majestic attire Susanoo is probably weaker than the ones that Sasuke and Naruto used against Juubidara. But well, Naruto just has his Kurama avatar. He doesn't have Sasuke's Senjutsu enhanced Susanoo to back him up. Sure, he has the Nine Tails, which is stronger inside a jinchuriki, but is it stronger than a regular Nine Tails backed up by a perfect Susanoo? It seems unlikely, so I give Madara this fight with mid difficulty. Now, we kind of already got this fight when Naruto was only using KCM2 without Sage Mode, but I don't think Sage Mode matters much here. This version of Madara can use all of the Rinnegan's powers and has access to Wood Style. You know, the same Wood Style that is specialized in controlling and suppressing Biju chakra. Even without this hack, I doubt Madara is going to struggle. He still has the perfect Susanoo, and he's a reanimation, so he can always just drop a few meteors on Naruto's head. Madara would win this fight pretty convincingly. This is an interesting one. On one hand, this Naruto did take on Juubidara at one point, but this was a Juubidara who was recovering from being on the verge of death, so he wasn't exactly in the best condition. Meanwhile, this version of Madara was eyeing up Juubidara and was convinced he could take him on, if only he got just a little tired from his fight against the shinobi forces. However, Naruto is now a 6-pass character, and he's on a completely different level. Besides, he can finally counter Madara's biggest strength, his Limbo. Naruto can't see the clone, of course, but he was dodging attacks from much stronger versions of Limbo, so he wouldn't have a problem dodging these either. Plus, even in Taijutsu, Naruto was cracking the God Tree with just his fists, so there's that. All in all, Naruto would take this fight, but with high difficulty. This is a fight that gets misunderstood a decent bit. Yes, Madara in this form was running away from this version of Naruto, but like we've said before, that wasn't exactly Juubidara at his best. That was a Juubidara that had almost died and had barely recovered. Plus, Naruto had surprised him with how much stronger he'd gotten so quickly, so it wasn't like Madara was exactly prepared for what was about to hit him. If Madara was rested from the start of the fight, I think it would play out a lot differently. Besides, this isn't even Naruto at his full strength, so I think Madara would end up taking this fight in the end. Madara got another massive boost in power after he absorbed the God Tree, to the point where he at least felt comfortable fighting Naruto and Sasuke long enough till he could get his second Rinnegan. But well, this is Naruto at the end of the series, after the fight with Kaguya, someone way stronger than this version of Madara. This version of Naruto was holding his own and damaging Kaguya in a one-on-one. This Naruto really wouldn't struggle all that much to take down Juubidara with only one Rinnegan, even if he's absorbed the God Tree. Of course, Madara was really only stalling until he could get his second Rinnegan, and we all found out why. Madara got a massive boost in power. Now he was able to use 4 Limbo clones, all of which were almost as strong as him. He could use multiple Chibaku Tensei all at once, raining them down on Naruto and Sasuke. Remember, this is a Madara so strong that Kishimoto himself had no idea how to beat him, which is why we even got the whole surprise Kaguya thing to begin with. Sooner or later, he would end up beating Naruto. Sure, Naruto did hold his own against Kaguya for a while, but he'd never actually beat her. Besides, Naruto and Sasuke both weren't strong enough to stop the infinite Tsukiyomi. What chance does Naruto alone have? Now, there is a big asterisk to this fight in general. The only reason Naruto will be able to power up this much is if Madara will let him. Remember, Sasuke himself was busy charging up Indra's arrow, to the point where he didn't notice a giant nine-tailed avatar gathering nature energy. Madara might not be so careless. If he is though, then I think this level of power will be just a little too much for Madara to handle. Remember, Naruto's ultimate Rasen Shuriken attack was able to cancel out Indra's arrow, a jutsu that had all of the Tail Beast's chakra behind it. Does Madara have anything strong enough to equal this? We haven't seen it. Can he absorb it with the Rinnegan? Well, it's a ridiculous amount of chakra, almost as much chakra as Madara has put together. So it really just depends on whether or not Madara can absorb it. If he can't, then Naruto takes this fight. Naruto is much stronger as an adult. Now he's going toe-to-toe against Otsutsuki characters regularly, to the point where we see him taking on Fused Momoshiki in Taijutsu and getting the upper hand without all that much trouble. This is after Naruto has half his chakra sucked out, by the way. Even in the war, Naruto was doing massive damage to people like Kaguya with Rasen Shurikens. As an adult, just a big ball Rasengan that he gave Boruto the energy for was enough to take down Fused Momoshiki. Really, what chance does Madara have? Well, he has the infinite Tsukiyomi, a jutsu that Naruto can't really counter. Still though, why would Naruto let Madara hit him with a jutsu that not only has he seen before, but also takes a decent while to set up in the first place? I don't see Madara standing a chance against Naruto here. This isn't a fight at all, it's just a one-sided slaughter. Naruto was overpowering Ishiki, who'd make Kaguya look like a joke in comparison. Sure, Naruto has a pretty strict time limit, but the time limit would literally only matter against someone as tough as Ishiki, and Madara isn't anywhere near that level. All in all, Madara might just literally get one shot here. After the nerf, Naruto isn't quite as strong as he used to be. Boruto has gone out of its way to show that Naruto just doesn't have the strength to keep up with all of these Otsutsuki and Karma users anymore. He wasn't able to stop the fight between Kawaki and Boruto, and his only real feat is saving his son from one of Kawaki's attacks. Still, Madara is a 6-pass level character, and while Naruto might be the closest thing to that level, he isn't a 6-pass character anymore. So I'd see this Naruto losing pretty easily to Juubidara, even without the infinite Tsukiyomi. That's it for this video, and it was a long one. If you have any thoughts about it, be sure to let me know in the comments, and don't forget to drop your ideas for future videos down there as well. I promise I'm going to get around to them eventually, and I'll see you next time. This is AnimeScale out. Bye!